expressing, guys. My school situation, it's a little bit interesting. So I only have 2 classes, and I've committed to the idea of entrepreneurship. So I'm out there for around an hour and a half, kind of just checking in, getting what I need to get done, and then I'm out. And
whatever you want.
all right, guys.
About yourself.
Oh yeah, something interesting about myself is that I committed to this idea of entrepreneurship last year, junior year. It was probably at my lowest mental when I was at school, and I spent a lot of time kind of just sitting there, staring at the wall. There was a lot of assignments that weren't even getting graded, or we're kind of just there, and there was no activity of purpose. And then after that, I started understanding that I can learn things on my own, and I learn in a different environment than being at school. So I committed to the idea of entrepreneurship, which gave me purpose, and it gave me the idea of life and fulfilling feeling of joy, which is amazing. So after this last year of high school, the idea is to keep pursuing my dreams and just going after it every single day. Especially spreading the word of the Lord is the biggest thing, and nothing can happen unless we're walking with God.
Alright, that was a tough act to follow, but my name is Charlie. I go to South Lakes High School. I'm a junior, and one thing that's special about me is I'd say I'm pretty good at connecting with people and really getting to know things from their side of things, and being able to look at somebody's situation and then figure out how they're seeing things. And so
my name's Tinsley, and I'm a sophomore at South Lakes. And once again, I'm probably not going to talk those 2 cool things. Mine is that I play lacrosse.
Hi guys, my name's Ala. I'm a senior at South Lakes High School, and one thing about me is that I'm a Midland. So I moved here in 2018. We moved here from my dad's work, and I'm just really grateful to be here, honestly, ever since I moved. It was hard, leaving my home and, friends and stuff, but I have a great community here. I have great friends. I've found kind of the group of people that I feel that I belong in, and I've also found this church, so I'm very thankful for that.
One other thing I want to say, and this is my personal privilege, is Tinsley and Nurse Kelly Healy came in, her older sister came in to give her support today. Their father is Filipino, and as you know, that's because my wife is Filipino. So we were talking all kinds of Filipino food earlier. So to begin with, in terms of this, what questions you folks would really ask you, I just want to often ask us a very basic question to begin with. As you experience your daily life, whether in school, and your entrepreneurship, what do you think is the one greatest challenge that you face, or what is the greatest fear that you have? We need a second to think about this. Greatest challenge or greatest fear. And it could be something that you talked about, or something that you wish others knew that you were scared of, or that you thought was something.
Alright, well, this is an amazing question. Awesome. So, one thing that I am terrified of, but at the same time I'm so grateful for, is if I was to lose my relationship with God. Because my relationship with God allows me to have the concept that there is nothing to fear, and if you keep Him in your head, it's all perspective. At 100% of the time, you can be in the worst possible scenario, the worst possible situation, and you can just say, thank you, God, and I promise you guys, it really just changes everything.
So it's almost like piggybacking off that, but it's more from a mentality standpoint. One of the biggest challenges that I think the majority of people face is not being too confident in themselves, and confidence is like a really key thing in every aspect of life. Like if you go into something confident, the outcome is going to be a lot better than if you went into it unconfident. And like Preston said, like having faith in God and like knowing that like you have all that power because of Him, and like everything's in His plan, it's really like a lot of confidence to like lean back on. And I think that if people just like took a step back and like realized that like it's all in God's plan and you really just have to leave it up to that, it's a lot easier to like stay confident in the moment because you're more in like a relaxed state. And I think like that helps people overcome that.
I'd say a big struggle I have is my procrastination, and I realize not just with me but also with my friends, I see lots of them putting a lot on their plate and just trying to tackle everything at once, and I noticed that it's really easy to get caught up in all those things, and you need to just slow down and take it one step at a time so that you can just achieve your goals.
Well, can I ask a follow-up question then, Tinsley? In terms of procrastination, I understand that. When you say folks taking on too much on their plate, is procrastination because you feel you have to take those things onto your plate because of other folks feel you should? Or, thank you very much, Brandon. That's your group. My question is, the procrastination and seeing other folks take so much on their plate, is that because you or they feel they must do it to be part of the group or to achieve and the pressure to achieve? Or is it something, that's the core question. Procrastination could just be a personality trait. But sometimes if you get overwhelmed, you just don't want to do anything, because if you do one thing, then you feel you're letting something else go.
I've definitely noticed, at least with myself, I see lots of other people being able to accomplish like so much stuff, and then when I look at it, I see it as almost a standard that I should meet, where I should be able to put all my effort into all these things, and it's just almost like too much comes at me at once, and it's really just a lot to work at, and yeah. So I feel like it's something that, at least with myself, I'm almost knowing that I should be able to do all of it and that it will benefit me, but it's just too much.
Thank you for sharing that. It's helpful.
So, one thing that I've been thinking a lot recently is future. I think that a lot of us can just spend a lot of time thinking about our future, whether that be future relationships or future careers or opportunities that you might have in life. Especially being a senior in high school, you kind of have a lot on your plate with what you want to do after high school and where you want to go, what you want to do with your life. And a lot of the times I take that kind of upon myself, and I'm just laying there in bed at night thinking about things that are really out of my control, because I kind of have to remind myself that God has it all figured out for me, and that if something isn't going my way, or something is doesn't go the way I planned it, it's not that I'm not going to succeed in life, or it's not that I'm not going to be this person that I want to be in the future. It's that God is taking a different route to create me into becoming that person that I need to be for that future. And so just really praying and spending time with God and thinking about, just really surrender your life, every single step to Him, and trusting His plan. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's a round of applause for all of us. So, in your responses, all of you talked about faith, trusting God, dealing with the challenges. So, the first core question is, where do you get support from that? We as a church, and there's a lot of our church folks here tonight because they want to hear from you. What can we do for you? How can we help you? Because if I'm not mistaken, Ella, you're saying I'm laying in bed at night and I'm thinking about this, and you're overwhelmed, I have to turn to God. That tells me sometimes you're dealing with it on your own. Or potentially you're dealing with it on your own. Or, what are the, poor Becky defending, and, it's just Michael's dealing with it on his own. See, we plan like a Shakespeare, we play it out of comic relief come through at every 7 minutes. And when you say faith in God, that has to be, the question then would be, where do you find those challenges to your faith, or what kind of things challenge that? So I'm going to start with that core question. Is there anything we can do for you as a church? You know, we love having you there Sunday morning. It's just a joy. But we know that when you leave church, you're out there. And I don't know that we know that you have the support that you need. And so I don't know if you have an answer to that question, but I want you to think about that.
I shouldn't feel starting on that.
Alright, so this is a common weekly thing for me where the Sunday's coming around. We've got through the entire week. It was a great week. I was fueled up, and I'm just grateful for what's gone down. And then it gets to Friday, and it's just like not feeling the mental. It's not there. We're a little bit droopier. And then that Sunday comes around, and then you just have Pastor Daniel just going at it, just spinning the best of the best. It's amazing every time. I post something every time. It gets me fueled up for the entire week. And what Pastor Daniel does, I'm so grateful because it's truly changed my life. I was going to St. John Newman my entire life growing up, and I came one time to Restoration, and I've gone back with my family to St. John Newman like once or twice. I love it every single weekend. It's Sunday, Restoration, that's where it really is. So thank you, Pastor Daniel.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Pastor Daniel does like a really good job of like connecting like scripture back to like things that actually happen in like real life. And it is like very refreshing to like get like reconfirmation in that, even though like you already know from like the evidence of like it all works out in the end. Like you always hear that, but like it really is true. Like from every single situation, there's always a good outcome that if you're in the right headspace, it's going to come and it's going to happen. And I think he does a really good job of connecting that back to scripture.
I agree, and I think it's also partially like finding your people and finding like who interlinks with you and just matches your vibe, and people who just like understand what you're going through. Like I noticed that whenever I'm overwhelmed with stuff or I just need help, I can go to my friends because oftentimes they're in the same situation as me and they'll have different insight to tell me, and I can use that to build on myself.
Yeah, so kind of going back to laying bed at my night overthinking. So I grew up in a non-religious household. I'm the only Christian in my family. So all my life I grew up in a household where we didn't go to church. I didn't know who Jesus was from, childhood and stuff. And I'd say like around 2020, I first kind of, a friend introduced me to it. And, it was something that I like knew. And I feel like I like to kind of think of the fact that she planted a seed inside me for it to sprout later. I'd say this past year and two, I've really grown closer to my faith, and I was looking for a church, and Preston obviously invited me with some Starbucks, so I'm very glad that I'm able to be a part of this church, and it's something that helps me a lot with my faith, and it's just keep being the church that's welcoming and welcomes new people, and yeah, I think that's it.
So the one thing I think I can say on behalf of Daniel, myself, and every Restoration member here, we want you to know that you are not alone, okay? That if you have those struggles or that loneliness or your isolation, we are here. Okay, and I think we try to show that on Sundays when you're in church, because we're all jealous that you get Starbucks and we don't. We have to drink that coffee, that swill that's out in the foyer there. No, I'm sorry, the coffee's really good. The coffee's really good. Now, see, now you have to know me. I have no taste at all, so I couldn't tell good coffee from bad coffee. I just love my coffee. You like my coffee? I love your coffee. Now, taking it a step further, thank you for that. Your friends, Tinsley, you said you find this group of friends. How do you find them in school? How do you gravitate towards them? And in school, what are your fears in school? Let me ask that. So answer that question first, Tinsley. How did you find those folks?
Well, I feel like it all really started in middle school. I started to explore different people that I had in my classes or who I just saw in the hallway or had mutual friends with, because I feel like middle school is really a starting stage where you're starting to really grow up and meet a bunch of new people, because so many different elementary schools feed into one middle school. And then I just started to realize who I enjoyed hanging out with and who I thought supported me most. And then I feel like it just got better, and it almost narrowed down, not kicking people out, but just finding who I thought was best for me and would help me grow the most to make me who I am today. And I've still stuck with lots of my friends from elementary and middle school, because I feel like those connections from the start really just fostered and just kept getting better as it went.
Ella, anything you want to add to that in terms of school and friends?
So friendship-wise, I've found many people in my life who I truly love and care about, and I'm so thankful that I have friends who support me through whatever I might be going through, and whatever, whether I be happy or sad, they're always there for me. And recently, I think I've found myself in this situation where I've grown a lot in discernment with the type of people I'm around. I have a lot of friends who are of Christian faith, and I mostly rely on them when you rely on God first, but after you rely on those people who really have the same, relationship with God as you do, because a lot of the times I find myself going for friends and asking them for advice who, might not have a relationship with Christ, and I notice these differences that we have in the way we think and the way we act and the way we, just perceive life and relationships and all those things. So, I've really found myself to start thinking about who I surround myself with more because of that.
Yeah, so what I was taking away from Ella's thing was the Christian values. I think it is more about finding a good surrounding of people that have similar values to you, because then when you're looking at decisions to make, someone with similar values to you is going to make a similar decision because they want a similar outcome. So I think that's a lot of what it is. And to kind of answer the question earlier about how I think engagement for the youth would be grown was one of my friends, George. He got an injury, and then he became really, really close with God, and he really liked we do Bible studies at when we'd have I'd say it was probably once every 2 months, but it would be 10 of all the guys just sitting around at a couch, and then really taking a piece of scripture and really discussing what it means and different meanings of it and the ways that different people interpret it. And it was really nice seeing how every single person had almost a different view of what that word meant to them based on their situations that they've lived through, but it was all around the same thing because everyone had similar values. And I think that's a lot of what it is finding people with similar values to end up in a similar place with you.
All right, guys. My opinion on school. All right.
Tell us how you really feel, Preston.
Yeah, guys. This was a big struggle with me. I had a great time my first 2.5 years leading up to that junior year, but that was definitely my terrible relationship with God. My freshman and sophomore year, I had no relationship with God. I just went to church with my family, and it just felt like I was checking the box each weekend. And then I actually had Matt as a therapist, and Matt was the one that taught me a little bit of self-improvement and taught me what to protect and how to protect what goes into my brain and what I'm consuming and stuff. And when I was in school, I didn't have control of what I was around and what I was hearing, what I was seeing. And I was around a lot of kids that just didn't have any sort of value of what they're consuming, because we become what we think just over time. So we have to protect what goes into our brain. And that's how I figured what develops the most amount of mental strength for me. So being at school, I lose that control, and that just depletes my mental. And I made a lot of friends, and it it's good to have friends, but it's not good to have friends that are just distracting you from reality. And that's what I saw at school a lot. I was just having a lot of friends that were just distracting me.
Thank you, thank you. So that's a really nice transition into a next series of questions. You know, here we are now with wars going on and inflation and what's going on in terms of what certain people post on the internet thinking they're Christ. Where do you all get your news from? You know, I'm in the wedding industry, and we used to have a joke years ago when MySpace was still around. It was just, you go to My Twit Face, you know, like Twitter and Facebook. So where do you get your news from, and how do you filter out what you don't want? How do you make those discernments?
For myself personally, I'm not very big into politics, and I don't have too much knowledge on the topic in general, but...
Well, it's not just a topic, I'm just in general. Where do you get your information from?
I like to protect what type of social media goes into my brain and what I see at all times. It's very strict, but it's how I build a form of mental strength and integrity. But I did hear before this that Trump is now claiming that he's Jesus, so I don't even know what's going on with that. Yeah.
Sometimes ignorance is good, that's
Yeah.
okay.
I'll just leave it with that.
I get my news mainly from like YouTube, or like it's mainly stuff that I'm interested in that I'm like looking into. I wouldn't say that I really like look on like a normal like news feed. I'd say like, because I don't really watch politics. I just watch news on like technology and like new AI stuff, and then like stuff going on. I like finding like not like mainstream journalists, but like journalists. Like I found this guy for like the war on Iran. I found this guy for information that he coded like, I don't know if you guys know what Palantir is, but it's like a surveillance company, and he like vibe coded like an entire like world eye view of like all the ships, all the planes, everything going into Iran. And like I thought that was like a way better way to look at the news, because you can actually see like what's going on with all the bombings and all like whenever like the technology systems go out, it shows like a zone. And I thought that was a really good way to like watch what's going on. And it also like showed how many, the Strait of Hormuz, I don't know if you guys know, but it's 20% of like the world's oil supply. It's only 5% of like the US's, but it went from like 140 ships to like 7. And being able to like see that on like the map and like really have it in front of my face, I thought that was a good way to interpret the news unbiasedly.
I feel like myself, I'm on my phone a lot and my devices, like for a majority of my day, whether it's like at school or just at home relaxing. And I'm mostly using social media apps like maybe Instagram. So I feel like as you use those apps, naturally it just tunes into your interests and filters out whatever you're not like engaging with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that most of my stuff that is like upcoming is just what I'm already like interested in and what I put myself into. And I realized that like whenever I go to school and I see something that I might have liked that I saw like a few days ago or just like the same day, I'll take that to my friends, and then I realize that they see kind of similar things and they also have like those similar opinions as me, so I just like build on their knowledge just to like expand what I see myself.
So, definitely news-wise, I like to talk to people, so a lot of the stuff that I find out is usually through people, like my parents. They usually keep me updated, especially with like political stuff. And I also like to sometimes, not daily, but sometimes when I'm interested in what's going on around the world, I like to like look at different news sites. I usually use like a Finnish news site because I'm from Finland, so that's like, you know, I see my dad scrolling on there every morning, so that's kind of where like I go and look at stuff. But like Tinsley said, social media is definitely a big part of, you know, the newer generation, and I think that we gravitate a lot towards our phone. So just finding, you know, information through different types of social medias, but also what Preston said is knowing how to limit different informations from good and bad, because we have to protect ourselves in, you know, what we see daily.
Actually, I'm going to, Keely and Gavin, will you jump in here too and answer that question in terms of your use of social media for...
So I would say,
You can stand right there, and half the people aren't going to see you anyway.
okay. So about 2 years ago, when Trump was running his campaign to be elected for 2024, right? He paid a lot of money to get like this marketing on TikTok, and I think me and a lot of my friends believed this stuff, and we thought it was right because we saw it all over our page and stuff. But and my mom told me that she was like, "Oh, it's just feeding you this stuff," and me like sophomore year, immature. I'm like, "No, you're stupid." Like, blah, blah, blah. And she was right, obviously. So, yeah.
Wait, no, that we just caught on camera that you said your mother was right. So,
my mom is sage.
Yeah, that's Miss Sage, son.
yeah. Kaylee?
Well, for me, I do follow a bunch of news social media platforms, so naturally it just pops up in my feed whenever I'm like looking at my friends' stuff and all that, and my following. But I kind of use that as a way to like, just in my daily life, it kind of just, it's already like integrated into my feed, so then if I see something, things down. If I see something that interests me or like just something that I haven't seen before or heard about, then I'll go and like research it more in depth. But I feel like it's just helpful to have that type of media that you're already like, it's just really integrated into your life, and then you can like dive deeper into things that pique your interest.
And Ethan, anything you want to throw in there?
So me personally, I'm Ethan, by the way. It's nice to meet y'all. Thankful to be here. For me personally, my dad's like really into politics, so I'll always have like conversations with him, and just looking at different news sites. Like I look at Fox News, CNN, like anything I can really see. I do an occasional Google search of today's news, see what happens around the world. So that's to kind of answer your question.
So are all of you, do y'all do Instagram? Do y'all do TikTok?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you do that old one? What's it called? Facebook? Noticed everybody out there, we do Facebook. They're like, yeah, no, Facebook. So I heard a couple of things. One is I heard that it can be influential in what you believe. But I also heard that as some of you have come and you've gotten a little bit older, you have a little bit more discernment. That if you hear something, you'll seek other information to either validate it or figure out what's going on instead of just saying, this has to be true. And I think that's, I don't know about some of us that are older, when we had three stations, you know, ABC, NBC, and CBS, and, you know, there weren't any, there was no alternative news going on, and you can even get more in depth in terms of YouTube and what's going on. So I just want to leave it at that. We have a few minutes, and I want to say that, Charlie, I know you need to leave at 7:30 because you've got lacrosse practice, so feel free to excuse yourself at any time, because I know that's really important. So let's give Charlie a round of applause for being here today. Thank you. I saw a lot of head shaking, and I just want to see, are there any questions that anybody wants to ask? Joe, come on. So I'm going to pass the mic out here, and then we'll do this for a few minutes, and then we'll go into some small groups.
Okay, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate what you're saying tonight. One of the questions I have is that I'm sure that you get questions from your parents. You go home, you have dinner, and the question is, how was school today? What is the question you really would want them to ask other than, how was school today? Think about that.
What do you feel is your purpose in life?
I think I'd want them to ask a question that kind of connects not just learning about me, like if they were to ask me, but also about them. I think I'd have them ask something along the lines of like, how can I help you to grow?
Yeah, I think those were both really good answers. I wish, well, love my parents, but most of the time my dad is very busy with his work, so I don't get to like see him that often. Like he's in Taiwan right now for a week, so I just wish that I could like spend more time with him and that he would ask me how school was sometimes. I know that he cares for me and I love him and he loves me, but most of the time I think my whole family is very like, we have our own routines going on, so we don't really get to see each other and ask how our days were, so just asking, more questions about that.
Yeah. Thank you all for being here. My question is, I think all or most of you are seniors and about to leave. Oh, okay. One sophomore, okay. So how... how can restoration help you or help younger students in high school find faith in Christ?
So, a lot of people see the Starbucks. I'm trying to take action on that. I'm trying to get as many high schoolers there as possible because I understand what restoration has done for me and my mentality and what it does each weekend just to get me fueled up. And I want that for everyone else too, because I want other people to feel inspired and I want other people to go and like aim for the highest possible goals because it is achievable, especially if they're doing it through faith, through this restoration community. And something that restoration could do, maybe we could put up some more flyers around the school, or I don't know what the Instagram situation is or the social media, but the more publicity, the more people are going to see it. And if we brought that energy that Daniel brought this weekend, this last mass or gathering, and that was just, there was good reviews. Just know that there's people texting me after, they're like, dang, like that was, Daniel, dang, you did good. Like, that was eye-opening. But I think the more energy, the more hype, because like we're still young. We get revved up and then we're going. And when you hear something as passionate as Pastor Daniel talking like that, it just we really see that and it rubs off on us, 100%.
I think restoration could definitely tune in on doing more events similar to this, where it's kind of not necessarily led by students, but it taps into like their thoughts and what they're thinking about just with life and with church and all that. Because I've noticed like stuff goes around really quick. So if like Preston or me or Ella or any of the high schoolers here just talk about it or post on Instagram saying come to this event, it 100% gets the word out and gets people excited. Like I know my friends were coming up to me and like asking what was it was about, and I think it just helps spread the word and gets people tuned into church and faith and can light a spark in them.
Okay, so I think social media is definitely a big part. I think most of the younger generation is caught up on social media a lot, so just having more accounts and being more active on social media, but also like personally just taking the time to kind of bring the church outside of church, I think that a lot of us, we're busy, but doing those small gestures for someone, like opening a door or complimenting people or just bringing Jesus' light and love to other people can definitely help other people notice Jesus' love in their life. I think that a lot of people are disconnected from God because they don't necessarily see that in their life, but being someone who can be the light of Jesus in other people's life can definitely help with that.
Gavin knows this because I've talked to him about it, but it brings me such joy every Sunday to see you all there, and the numbers grow and the numbers grow. And there's a million places you can be on Sunday morning, and I'm so honored that you choose to spend your time with us. So a couple questions. One, would you all, and maybe it's a way that it's an easy way to extend an invitation to a friend, if we did a service project for the high schoolers? Is that something that you all would be interested in? You know, if we did it on a Saturday or something, and then it's an easy way to invite your friends and say, hey, we're going to go clean up trash or paint the school or something. Would that be something you would be interested in participating in?
I'm always there for a little bit of volunteer hours. You know, you can always give back to the community. But I can't speak for everyone, but I would be there.
I know you
And I
are
would
busy, but
publicize it,
that would be something, if you're interested, come talk to me. I would be happy to organize something. The other thing is, I know Charlie said that like periodically he would meet with a group of guys. If we were able to get volunteers, would you all want to do like a life group or something, you know, not every week, I know you all are so busy, but maybe actually just in the summertime when, you know, you don't have so many things scheduled, if we could do something for the high schoolers. Again, if we can get someone to organize it, would that be something where you guys could come together and just talk about what's going on in your life and how you're getting through it and you know, something like that?
Yeah, I definitely think a live group could be a big thing that grows over a couple repetitions. Definitely the first time we'd have a similar group to the amount of people of high schoolers that came to this one. But I think over time, if we're posting about it, it could really grow to something and become bigger for the high schoolers, and that could correlate to restoration and the community of high schoolers that comes to that too. So that could be a really big thing.
All right, guys, go home and pray about it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'm really inspired tonight. Are the rest of you inspired tonight? I wrote down a bunch of notes, which you might hear in a sermon at some point. But I have a hope. I have a dream that that we could build a church that's led by people who are teenagers and 20-somethings. And I have a conviction that the older adults in our church would be more than happy to really see that happen. Do whatever it takes to build a church. You know, I spent about like 15 years in youth ministry when I first started, and we always called the high school generation the next generation, and I absolutely did not like that. You might hear me slip and say things like that. But I've always been convinced that high schoolers and college students are the now generation. And you all need to lead us. You all need to teach us and show us what does it mean for a church to be real and true and connected to the present culture. So my question, after saying all of that, my question is if you had an opportunity to build a church where you could imagine a lot of people your age being kind of front and center with the church, what would be important to do something like that? What would be an important value? What would be important for a church to do in order to become a church that is like that?
You may not have a correct answer right now, but it is something to ponder.
I have a genuine idea of how it could work out. Just the first thing that came to my mind is that we need some sort of leader among the high schoolers that can kind of set the example in a way. And then around that, we can all come around, and then maybe more people can start speaking their mind. I think starting off with this event was amazing because we can build off of this event with like the live group, and then I think that falls under the same thing. Like through repetition, I think it could really grow. But the pinnacle would be having an amazing motivational speaker like yourself, Daniel, and then someone who can, on a direct level, relate to the rest of the high schoolers.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know Preston, he posts a lot about church and stuff, just gets people ready and just gets like the people around us excited about different events and stuff. And even if they don't necessarily go, it's good to like inform people of what's going on and like ideas that are being passed around. And I definitely think being like open to new ideas and new perspectives from other people, because again, with like the younger generation, there's people coming from all over the place with new ideas and stuff, and everyone has a different view on life and just all these new situations. So I think just being really open to all these ideas and kind of putting it all together to reach one like standard point or like area of growth.
Yeah, both of those were great, and I think that also something that could benefit would be just touching up more on subjects that I think could be beneficial for younger generations as well. You know, I feel like a lot of Gen Z and a lot of young adults and teenagers, they struggle kind of with the same things day-to-day life, and you know, creating a sermon or something based around that could be also great.
About what it means to have God with you at all times, and a lot of us struggle with keeping God with us at 100% of the time, because it's so easy to get distracted now, either whether it's through social media or things that you overall just hear. It's so easy to get off the topic of keeping God in your eyes at 100% of the time. So covering that confusion and how we could kind of cope to get around that in a way could be a big thing, especially for a sermon on Sunday. There you go.
Adding on to Preston, I think just like a bigger view of that is like mental health, because I know lots of teenagers are just in different areas of their life with growth and just everything, and they're facing all these different things, and everyone has a sense that like all people struggle in some way, but I feel like not a lot it's like openly talked about because people might be like scared or whatever. But just knowing that like everyone has an area of growth or a point in their life where they're struggling is definitely a good place to start, because that's just a connection point for everyone to grow and just become a better person and just being more aware of what's happening around them.
Yeah, just I think helping and talking more about what, like how, maybe like how to read the Bible or how to pray or like simple things like that, because I think that a lot of people, they get, you know, when you first are introduced to faith, you aren't really sure where to start or what to do or stuff like that, and I love to help my friends with that and stuff, so I think that if a church was able to do that more often with people, that would be great as well.
And this is Michael, who runs our Bread Breakers group. Come on up here, Michael.
Hi, thank you guys for coming and doing this. This has been really cool to hear. Ella, you mentioned the church bringing itself out to the community. I think I'm paraphrasing you, but right, yeah. Take the church out of the church, right? So that really struck a chord with me, because a lot of us, myself included, are really involved in this fresh expressions movement, right? You probably heard Daniel talk about it a lot on Sundays, but you know, hi Benny. There's that comic relief again, Jeff. But right, the whole idea of it is how do we do things that evoke the spirit of church or scratch a lot of the itches of church, but outside of church. And in ones like Bread Breakers, it's very intentionally, pluralistic, where it's people of all faiths and all beliefs and all, whether it's political or backgrounds, all sorts, right? So it's not just for Christians, but it's about creating belonging and authentically knowing one another and having those deeper, almost spiritual conversations, right? Like, let's get real, like mental health, things like that. So my question is, to what extent do you think people your age have an interest in communities like that, or the time for it? Because I know there's so many things going on in your life right now, and you're getting ready for college, or you've got sports, or whatever. So the interest, the time, are those there or not? And then the third part is, if it's yes to the first two, what might it look like for something that you think would actually get a lot of people your age interested? And I say this not because we want to go and build it for you, but because we would want you guys to build it and us to support you in that, right? Yeah.
So before you all respond, I just want to say that based on this tonight, my commitment to you and to all of you here, because I've already had a couple conversations with a couple of the members from Restoration, once you get out of school, I'm willing, and a couple of us are willing to host a gathering, just a conversation, to support you with that and to help give structure if there's a real interest in doing that and building it from the ground up and knowing that it may take a year or two. Are you going to college somewhere or are you staying local?
I'm going to Arizona State.
You're going to where?
Arizona State.
Well, that's local enough. Arizona State. And I know you're going to stay local. You're still here. Are you going off to college? Jim, you're local enough. Are you going off to college? Oh, gee. I know, we're going to Arizona. So go ahead and answer that question about, what it might look like and so on and so forth.
All right, guys, I think we have to build a live group. I think that's the best idea. And I have no problem with if we need someone to talk and kind of lead it in a similar scenario to this, especially if we're able to host somewhere like here, like you said, especially that could be a once a week thing throughout the summer. And after those first 3 weeks, I think we could get a lot of high schoolers in here.
I also definitely agree with the live group. Like, I know Herndon High School has their version of that, where from what I've seen from just like my friends that go there, they kind of just meet whenever they're like all available, and they just have like a centered talk around faith, but it's more of like a lighthearted way to just reconnect and just reinforce those ideas into your mind and just build on that and just open yourself up instead of just like putting yourself into that situation on Sunday at church. It's just like another way to be connected.
Yeah, so my time and interest is definitely there. I'd also be so thankful to, be a part of any, activity that we have regarding younger students or younger folks. And I think the life group is definitely a great idea. I think also any Bible studies or, anything that kind of helps people to come together and do things that maybe, if they're starting out or kind of scared to do or not sure how to do, but to do it with people, it would definitely help them. So.
Okay, what I wanted, go ahead, Gavin. I want to mention that both Gavin and Keeley are on the injured reserve list here. Looked like a broken foot and a sprained ankle, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I want to point something out, that most young Christians our age and around me are technically Catholic, but they go to church twice a year, Christmas Mass and Easter Mass, So their perception of church is a lot different. Like Preston's, when he went to Catholic church and I invited him to come to Restoration for the first time, he didn't know what to expect, and I kind of like made him come. And I didn't know what he was gonna react, but he really liked it, obviously. And I think it's just really, it's a completely different environment and experience than what most people are used to. So I think the exposure of Restoration will really give that time and effort to other students. But I think without them coming, I don't know if the time and effort would be there because they have a different perception of church. But once they experience Restoration, I think they would have that time and effort.